time ever, iMakey is coming to India. Join global leaders at iMakey India, September 10th through 13th, 2025 in Hyderabad. Explore 17 technical tracks spanning both industry and academia, plus keynotes from B.N. Kalyani of Bharat Forge and Pawan Kumar Chandana of Skyroot Aerospace. Make history with ASME. Register now at asme-india.org/iMakey. iMakey India, where innovation connects research and real-world impact.
Well, welcome to Unconventional Engineering. I'm your host, Tom Costabile, joined by my co-host, Jay Flores, STEM Ambassador Extraordinaire, and I will add a recent recipient of the ASME Next Gen Award at our ASME Foundation Optimism Engineered Gala in New York. Jay, congratulations again. It was a lovely evening. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to doing many more with you.
Thank you. I had so much fun. I'm glad we were able to get the whole audience engaged with the experiments, and I can't wait to turn a whole bunch more engineers back into curious 8-year-olds again soon.
Well, that's great. I think today's topic might give us another advantage to do that. So along those lines, would you do the honor of introducing our guest today?
Yeah, I'm very excited. This person is a trailblazer in the 3D printing space, has had some really major contributions to Madison Avenue, game design, and a whole bunch of Hollywood blockbusters. So his background runs the gamut, and he's internationally recognized as an additive manufacturing expert. Please welcome to the show, Jason Lopes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Your career journey is unconventional as it gets. So can you tell the audience a little bit about the early days and what you meant by that?
Yeah, I think looking back and thinking at it now it's really unconventional. I am not an engineer by trade at all. Didn't go to school for engineering. I grew up in New Jersey as someone who aspired to be a skateboarder. All I did was skate, hung around with all my friends and peers were skaters, much better than me. But I had the luck of being given a video camera super early in my childhood. And when I realized I would never be able to go professional skating or even close to that, I just followed around people with a video camera. And that sparked my interest and passion into wanting to create and make skate movies and edit movies and things like that. So I signed up and I went to art school for film and video. So I'm a filmmaker and an editor by education. And, I enjoyed that. I loved that. I always loved telling a story, even in my present day type of work. And, I came out with a degree in film and started working for A&E and the History Channel. And then, thought that was going to be it, got into graphics and then visual effects, and then started really learning the systems of visual effects and still trying to be a creative. And then there was one weekend when I came into the studio at the time in New York, and I was sitting down working on my own art. I was an After Effects artist at that point. And we used to do these truth advertisements for non-smoking. And we rented out those visual effects bays for the weekend because they had no budget during the week. And they were kind of on their own. If something went wrong, they'd have to try to figure it out. And as I was working on my art, I just heard all these screams coming from a room and slams, and I peeked my head in to see what was going on. And they told me that the machine was broken, it didn't work. And at that time, it was like the size of a refrigerator. It ran on IRIX. It was a Cray computer system by Silicon Graphics. And I was like, do you mind? Can I just hop in? And they're like, oh, go for it, because no one else knows how to run this. And I fixed it. And I was immediately had this light bulb that went off in my head. And I was just like, oh my God, like I've been trying so hard to do a creative career, but I just enabled through a technical aspect, the creativity to continue and move forward. So at that point, I realized the key to my success, which is still even today, is to be a bridge between creative and technical. If the technical gets in the way of creative, an artist loses it, it's gone. They don't want to move forward, and they're just done. So I immediately went to SGI school from there. I got certified in the IRIX operating system from back in the day, if any of the listeners know what even that is. And I started tweaking computer systems to handle high-end visual effects and graphics. And I was doing that for a while, became that bridge, and it worked out really, really well. And then 9/11 happened years after. And so I decided to take my first trip west about 9 months after 9/11. And I met up with some people that I had previously worked with, a producer, met where he was working, and I was had a job offer, and so I moved out doing the same thing. And a couple of years after that, I went and visited that same friend who was at a new shop. The shop at that time was called Stan Winston Studio. And I showed up there. I was completely in awe of all of these physical creations that I saw the whole teams working on. And they had a digital department, which was right up my alley. That's what I did. But the digital department was separate from creating these beautiful characters. So the way I describe it is, they might be working on the next level Terminator or a Jurassic Park, if you will. And the digital department was off trying to animate Garfield the movie. So it kind of recognized, along with a couple other peers, that the digital department needs to be part of that storytelling process and help create those characters early on. So we transformed that digital shop over and got it set up and learned the new tools to how to support a physical build and just figure it out from there. So that was the first time I realized, okay, I'm going back into the physical kind of analog world, but with a digital influence into getting it set up and how the job would be carried through. And ever since then, I have not looked back, and it's just, that was the entryway getting into what would become 3D printing, rapid prototyping at the time, being the backbone of all of it.
Jason, it's amazing, that part of it. And yes, I was around in the early days of CGI where it took weeks to produce, 4 cells and what have you. And so you did that. I had the same eerie feeling in my stomach that I had back then. So thank you for that.
Of course.
One of the things you talk about, Jason, which is really, I fully support, is cooperation versus competition. And you spent a lifetime doing that. When we first chatted, you told us a little bit about that, and I've been intrigued and still thinking about this today. So for our audience, just two more sentences or two more minutes on your version of cooperation versus competition.
So it's funny that term. Really, I think about it a lot because it's every day. Like, everyone's trying to compete to outdo each other. And when you bring people together, because we have all these tool sets that we use, and I think everyone will agree, especially in the audience, no tool set is final defined. There's still work to be done. If you want to talk just specifically in the 3D printing space about that tool set, materials need to get better, technology needs to get better, technology needs to be more exact, more accurate, things like that. And if we're working on isolated islands from each other, it's always going to kind of stay the same, or it's going to be slow development to get better. But if we can share experiences, even though, we might be competition, on paper, but I like to call it, as you said, cooperation, where we share these ups and downs throughout these projects, so we're all in similar bunkers together. The end result might be different. The cherry on top might look a little different from each other's. However, we go through the same warpath together. And if you could bring people in together and discuss and talk about all these ups and downs, the trials and tribulations, we can really sit down with people responsible for bringing us these new technologies, new materials, and advance the industry in the way that it needs to be advanced. You hear a lot of word about adoption. We need it to be adopted. Yep. And this and that. The road to adoption is going to be such a local, long road if we don't come together and work on these and share these experiences together. And that's, that really, really is how I look at things, even inside my own building. You have all separate groups, and where I currently work, or any company really, and cross-pollinating together. And just working and showing how this is, well, you're asking for this, but this is why I'm limited, and giving you those answers that you don't like. If you just knew and understood my world a little bit, and I can understand your world and why you're asking me for what you're asking me, we can deliver a better product together.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Yeah, I think that's something we can all take some value from. And so after that time at Stan Winston Studio, you transitioned over to a new company, and you worked on some pretty cool projects, some of which I loved and also still use in work with getting young kids excited about technology. So for our audience, could you share some of those projects, and then kind of that transition over to the new company, Legacy Effects?
Yeah, so when I was at Stan's, we were working on major movies, and 3D printing was an input. But two different projects came across. Stan Winston passed away in 2008 on Father's Day, and while we were in the middle of these projects, and one of them was a commercial for Halo 3. It was this big diorama with all characters on it, a lot of characters and poses, a frozen moment in time. And the second project was Marvel Studios' first Iron Man. And there was no way to do either project without utilizing the tool of 3D printing. Two different flavors of 3D printing. The Halo project was much smaller scale, character figures, toys, if you will, and Iron Man obviously was full suit. So going from Stan Winston to Legacy Effects essentially was 2.0 of Stan Winston, because the top artists carried the company on into a new home and new location with the same principles that were taught from Stan, but with newer technologies and newer tools feeding them. So we immediately brought in 3D printing. We built up a big outsourced pipeline as well, because we knew out the gate we weren't going to be able to just buy every 3D printer in the world. But it really became ingrained with our design group, our design division in there, that they were going to learn model making from two different aspects. They were going to create models digitally like they always did, but we were also going to invite the traditional model makers from the shop floor to be a part of this process as well. Because a lot of the kids that were coming out of school, they're not learning it from a practical sense of making digital models. They're making it for the monitor, for the screen, where you can get away with, like, if that shot doesn't show the back of them, we don't need to model it, or it doesn't need to be as good, if you will. But we wanted to always make sure that our assets at this company were the starting assets that, yeah, we're going to make a physical suit or toy, whatever vehicle, but we can then hand those assets off to a visual effects company that can do their work on top of that and have a great asset and turn it from every angle and know that they were going to have a proper model. Our mantra was, if we're going to design and click away and create all of these things, they have to be proper like a traditional model maker would, and we need to be able to output everything that we created. And so it blew up. I think in the first year of Legacy Effects, it was something like over 200 commercials, 10 feature films, music videos, and I even think it might have been the first or the second year, we even contributed to an opera, all utilizing this technology. Now, what this did was it allowed all of the design team, and even the younger ones that were hired on the design team, to just know exactly geometry in a much different way that wasn't taught to them when they were learning in schools or even specialized schools for creating characters and vehicles, if you will. And we started bringing in more 3D printing type engineering programs into the workflow. Materialized Magics was a huge backbone. And the reason why I wanted Materialized Magics in there was because just using that program to clean files to prepare for printing was teaching everyone in that room proper geometry, understanding geometry from a different perspective, getting out of that whole, oh, it looks great on the monitor, throw a texture on top of it, it looks phenomenal. Well, I would always tell people, remove the texture. I don't care what the texture looks like. I want to see the wireframe. I want to see everything. And it just started working, where people started immediately just building great models by default without having to go through it. The other thing that was huge for us as well was all of the younger hires, if you will, just coming into to support the design room. We did a lot of scanning, 3D scanning, because we're designing suits around people. And we weren't doing photogrammetry scanning. We were using like Artex and Creaforms, if you will, and just getting a form. We would get that form milled in foam, and then we would design around it. So, because we couldn't get the actor, actress in at all times to understand measurements. But every bit of scanning that we did, we would have them retopologize everything. We would rebuild all of that scan data into a proper mesh. And that would just hone their skills even further. Now they were understanding, okay, we're going from scan data, whittling it down to a nice mesh, but now working smarter, being able to clean up these files, build our asset library, because every scan we developed our own system of storing our scans, being able to call them up at a future date, to be able to use them as a placeholder if we didn't know who was going to be hired for the film or the commercial. We could get general measurements and then design around that until they found their right person. And we just had this, what I call the 101s, where everyone in that room just was ingrained to know by default, what are the things that we're going to do to ensure that we're given quality geometry every step of the way. And we never looked back. It was really magical thinking about it.
So, Jason, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a question that I've been asking everybody lately, 2 or 3 times a day. There's a little acronym out there, a 2-letter acronym called AI. How is that a factor in your work, and what do you see going forward? And I can tell you the horror stories that I've been dealing with a lot of friends that are producers and writers on their creative work. I am a big proponent of the ethical use of AI to get much better, but not stealing stuff or not creating stuff. And I'm curious to know what you do, because I'm looking at that plethora of just figures behind there, that behind you on your wall. It's what do you think is going to happen with AI?
So that's the big $1 million question. So I lead our AI committee here at the studio, and the way that I went about looking at it, I think, is a little different than a lot of people do. So first of all, ethics plays a huge role. So that's at the starting point. And then I looked at it as if, okay, what does AI mean to our clients and our vendors? And what does AI mean to us as a studio?
Yeah.
And I was able to separate those two. So starting with us as a studio, how can AI make us better? We don't fear AI is going to take our job. We can't think like that. AI, this is an interesting one, because just like with 3D printing, when it was first introduced in my world, I had a lot of model makers put up their guards about it. Oh, that's going to take my job. That's going to take my job. And it's just like, no, you don't understand. You're the ones that have been doing this traditionally. I want you to drive this technology, because no one's going to be able to drive it like you are with your experience and in your 101s and you doing it before there was a button to do it. So you're just going to do it better than even the OEM can do it. And that's kind of like the same route that we're taking here with AI from inside the studio. And just like with technologies outside of AI, you become a wizard or a sorcerer to master those technologies and have it do what you need it to do for you to make what you're supposed to be doing even better. So one of the first things that I saw inside of the studio was, okay, we get a lot of crazy phone calls. I have this character, but I don't have artwork yet. And I was just wondering, how much is this going to take to create this character? And we know there's a workflow. When you create a character, there's design, there's output of a prototype, and then there's production of that approved prototype. So the first thing that we know how to estimate artist hours, so that's easy, but they still don't have a file. So I can take that general idea, throw it into a custom AI engine that we have here that actually creates a model, a pseudo model. And now I can do volumetric quoting based on that, even down with color texture. So that allows us to rapidly get back to our customers that are asking how much something's going to cost, and provide them with numbers to move a project forward even further when it's still in thin air, if you will. So that's a huge win, because now we can deliver volumetric quotes based on ideas in people's heads by using AI specialized for that type of a workflow. A real common one also was, okay, what are high-end artists wasting a lot of their days on? Pushing buttons for utilitarian processes in between each step of things. So for instance, in our scanning department, in our digital department, there's a lot of transfer of files and data. There's a lot of utility type work for said data. So we're going to utilize AI to help and cut down, so an artist can do more art rather than computational processes. Huge. Also, one of the ways that we dabble was, okay, when we scan a person, no matter how good you can scan someone, 160 cameras, whatever, you still can't get under armpits, under feet, under things like that. So now in certain scenarios, I can have our AI model train on the subject matter that's going to be scanned, And now rather than an artist fill in all those holes that are missing in the geometry is going to do that for us. So once again, using it for efficiency down on this side of the table, allowing us to deliver better, faster quality work. And over time, that should allow us to also decrease the costs and things, because now we don't have to worry about billing hours that are going to be taken up where it's like waiting for paint dry, if you will, in between coats, because we're moving it forward, we're processing data. Color correction, 560 cameras that are taking that data, 160 images, I can now have it do all the color correction, come up with different looks. So those are great ways, and that's how we're approaching it here in-house. And even as a starting point for an artist knows that they have to design something from scratch. How can we at least have this AI model block it out for them, so they might have a 1 or 2 day advantage of now creating to like push, pull, and do digitally sculpting a lot differently than doing it complete from scratch. Now, if we flip it out to our customers, our clients, or the people that come in to get scanned, we will never utilize AI to do likenesses. We're very open with our talent that comes in, so they understand what our AI role is in this equation. But more importantly, it comes down to we do not generate any type of human data or any type of actor human data through this method at all. Only times we will ever use it with a outside of a talent is with client. If AI is allowed to be generated, a lot of times people have things in their head that they're not so well at getting them out of their head to telling us what they want. And, obviously we have contracts that now have AI included in them and things like that, where if it's allowed to, we will help move that idea forward into conceptual reality. And that's where it ends on that. A lot of studios, when they send talent over, there's strict no AI clauses in that data, in the whole set. And we abide by that because, first and foremost, that's the reason why we are doing these projects that we're doing.
I agree.
So it's a tough one, and it's always going to evolve, but I see it more and more every week. The contracts, all these contracts, normal contracts that would be easy reads through now have pages dedicated to this. And, and I totally understand that as well. I don't ever want to see content being generated on, on a feature film length type of thing. We've heard the grumblings in certain studios, their look on AI, and they might have upset some of their staff. This is an artistic industry, in my opinion, and people devote their whole childhood through young adulthood to learning these tools of the trade to create art together as a team for the final look. And, I don't agree in that, in storytelling through that visually for the screen or for the monitor. But any utilitarian tasks, process data, things like that, I think there's something to be said here, because everyone wants things faster, quicker, but even better caliber quality. And if that can let my artist have more artist time, then I'm on board with that.
All right, so Jay, I got to ask this real nerdy question because it came up in something that Jason said just now. Jason, I know you've been around a long time, 3D printers. You've seen a lot of technology changes. One of my favorites is the idea of printing parts, where I can print a part inside another part because I'm able to do this. Not to name a brand or what have you, but what's your favorite type of printer? And what do you see in terms of optimizing different styles of printing? Admittedly, I'm talking about a deposition printer here. I've got 4 different versions in my office here that mostly it's because I'm a nerd and want to buy this stuff, but I don't have time to use them. But what's your view of it?
So, many technologies fascinate me for a few different reasons. And, you and I have talked about the desktop printer that you have that you utilize with your grandson. And I'm a fan of, allowing beautiful quality parts that are actually tightly tolerance engineered parts in the desktop printer, doing some pretty amazing things. But, one that's gotten me lately, and I'm pretty sure, I know it came out of MIT, and it's not commercial yet by any means. I think it's starting to become. It was debuted at Disneyland Paris. It was the rapid liquid print, I think at RLP or something like that, where it prints inside of a gel. So you have that object that can just come out and get rinsed. There's no support structures. You can do complicated overhangs, different colors, transitions of colors, and you can print in silicones and things like that. That's what really, really, really excites me, is when we can get closer to the minute that print is done, being able to have it in hand in application being used for how application's intended. You have like what I think a lot of the audience and a lot of just people don't realize is, once that print is done current day, the print's not done. Like there's so many different things that still needed to be done to it. Right? You have to remove, so you have to final cure it, you have to clean it, you have to remove supports from it, you have to sand off those nubs of the support. Now you have to also paint it, this and that, blah, 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 blah. It keeps going on and going on and going on. Now, if you're talking about doing 10,000 of them, you have to optimize the workflow to be able to even do all those steps to make the part economically viable. It's amazing that this stuff even works at all, getting out into adoption. But that's one that really excites me. I think they showed it off, or at least in Paris at the park, like a little purse, a little handbag that people could do and watch it do it on the fly. And they just pull out a gel, rinse it off, and go to town. There was another technology too that I saw at last year's Rapid. It was more fascinating and wondering how it was really, really done. But it was a centrifugal force type of printing, where the build plate was actually wrapped around the inside picture of a picture like a washer machine, how you put your clothes in and it's that drum. Now imagine like a sheet metal going around that inner drum, and all your parts are spinning super quick, the build's spinning super quick, and the lasers are hitting it and building up from the outside in on this. And then you just take the sheet metal out when it's done, and that circle diameter now opens up to a flat sheet, and you pop your parts off. There wasn't too much info on, but that fascinated me just thinking about that. So for me, it's technologies that eliminate a lot of the downstream steps to get in hand faster.
So Jason, before we close out, I want to go back to the beginning, because I'm sure you can relate to the phrase that failure is part of the process, especially in that skateboarding journey.
Yeah.
Any sport I've done, from skateboarding to Ninja Warrior, it's getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, moving past that failure to keep being able to chart the course towards where you want to go. So is there any advice you have for kids that are still searching for what they want to be when they grow up?
This is a great topic. For me, it still applies. It's failing upwards. You can apply this to anything, but I'll apply it to skateboarding. If you look at all skateboarders, there's one trick that's the entry trick to doing everything, and that entry trick is an ollie. Once you learn how to ollie, you can then kickflip, right? So if you look at everyone learning the ollie, any skater that you see, they fail 99% of the times trying to hit that ollie. And that failure, does it stress them? Yeah. Does it frustrate them? Yeah. But they want to land it. And the minute they land it, all those other failures go away, and they have that, what I call that sweet spot feeling, that euphoria. It just takes over, it erases out, and now you've made it to the next level. You landed it. Even if it's you landed it once out of 10,000 attempts, you landed it. And now you know that it's in you, that you're going to be able to land it again. And you're still going to fail some, but you're going to refine. And now, next thing you know, you're into the kickflip. And you're going to fail there. But you're going to go back, and your mind's just automatically going to make you remember, oh, I was same thing. And you're going to hit it. And the cadence of getting to wins starts getting faster. You build up this rhythm. And I can't stress it enough. That same logic applies to when I'm doing a very complicated build setup in like a DLP with a hybrid type of engineering resin. Like I want to nail it. And I feel myself going back to when I was a kid on that skateboard, like I'm gonna nail it. And you do nail it. And it's the same exact feeling. And a lot of people get so scared about, oh, I'm gonna make a mistake and that's gonna fail. And yeah, there's going to be stress around that, especially in the workplace. I get it. However, you use those learnings and you write these learnings down. I have Bibles of all my failures, what didn't work, why didn't it work, why I thought it didn't work. Oh, would it work like this? I don't have time to job finish, but would it have worked like this? And then somehow, some down the line, a project comes in that is very similar to that. I go back to my Bible and I'm like, oh my God, I can pick right up, just like I'm trying to nail that ollie again. And you just don't be afraid of failing. If it happens, it happens, but you channel it, and you can question why and how and what could have been different. And there's a video out there, anyone can Google it. It's like this, probably a few of them now, but it's like this little girl, she's trying to do her first ollie, and it's failure, 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 failure. And when she finally hits it, the emotion on her face and the crying, how happy she is, and she hops off the board and she's like running around like, I can't even believe it. Did anyone see this? That's a beautiful thing. And I think anyone that's successful, no matter who any of your guests are, I bet you if you ask the same question, like they'll tell you they probably failed a lot. I have failed a lot.
So, gentlemen, we covered quite a bit of ground today. I just wanted to thank both of you for this great conversation. Jason, Jay, and I'll come out and visit y'all. We're anxious to see what new ideas you've got in the studio there. But hey, guys, thank you again. I very much enjoyed the conversation.